As I reflected on the title the government has offered up for today's budget resolutions debate, Economic Sustainability and Fair Choices, I have found myself wondering on what planet anyone could possibly call yesterday's budget sustainable or fair when we see in the forecast GDP growth down every year from 2026 to 2029, CPI inflation up 3.5% this year, taxes increased by £26 billion, the unemployment rate will hit 4.9% in 2026, the size of the state itself increasing to 44.8% of GDP, borrowing up by £11 billion, and debt interest higher in every year of the forecast. That is not the makings of a sustainable economy. That is not the makings of growth, and that is certainly not fair on the taxpayers that are going to have to shoulder the burden to pay for it all. Madam Deputy Speaker, as I go around businesses in my constituency, from the retailers and the hospitality businesses on the high streets of Wendover, Princes Risborough, Great Missenden, the pubs in the villages, the furniture manufacturers in Princes Risborough and surrounds, the literal rocket scientists and big businesses at Westcott Venture Park, they all tell a picture of preparing for things to get worse, of saying that they are not planning to take on new employees or even apprenticeships. They are not planning.
Thank the honourable member for giving way. Can I ask him if he had a similar conversation with his constituents after Liz Truss's disastrous budget, which he supported, and what did they say then?
Madam Deputy Speaker, they're like a broken record. But what I would say to the honourable gentleman is that the last government certainly made a number of mistakes. We put our hands up to that we left employment high, unemployment at a record low. Jobs were being created every single day of the last Conservative government. Yet businesses now are either planning on not taking on more new starters, or like Rumsey's Chocolatier in Wendover High Street, have already, because of Employers NI, because of business rates, because of the looming Employment Rights Bill, have already had to lay people off and cut the hours of other employees they have been able to keep. That is the real-world consequences of this Labour government's policies. And yesterday in the budget, the dividends tax struck right to the heart of the entrepreneurs, those small business owners who risk everything to create growth, to employ people, to create the jobs that we want to see in our economy, and it has given them a message there's going to be less in it for you, if anything at all. So many of these businesses are working on such narrow margins, are working their absolute socks off almost for nothing, and this government is making it even harder for them. That is no way to run an economy. And then we look at a number of businesses I'm lucky enough to have many of in my constituency. Around 90% of the land area of Mid-Buckinghamshire is agricultural land. I have many farmers. I talk to them as often as I can. My party held our emergency farm and food summit at Fleet Marston Farm in my constituency just a couple of weeks ago, where my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition, and the Shadow DEFRA Secretary and Shadow Farming Minister joined me to hear again directly from farmers the impact the family farm tax will have. The impact that will see them either have to sell up to a third of their farm to meet that tax bill, or take on a level of debt that would take them over 40 years to pay back. From the NFU and many other organisations and Farmers Direct, they have tried to reach out, including yesterday on Whitehall, to get Labour MPs, to get government ministers to listen, to understand the real-world consequences of their decisions. And yet in the budget yesterday, it was entirely lacking of anything other than the transferable allowance to actually take away that stress, that anxiety, and that exponential threat to British agriculture that the family farm tax, as well as the changes to BPR, represent to family businesses and family farms up and down the country. Because I can assure anyone that challenges this that it won't be other farmers that buy that land when farms have to sell to meet the inheritance tax bill. It will be property developers, it will be all sorts of other concerns that will not keep that land in food production, and the nation's food security will will suffer as a direct result of yesterday's failure to scrap the family farm tax. Now, I want to talk briefly in the last couple of moments I have about another issue that I have been focused on for a number of years during the last Parliament and this, and draw the House's attention to my co-chairmanship of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on the Loan Charge and Taxpayers' Fairness. And I am grateful to the now Chief Secretary of the Treasury and the new Exchequer Secretary for the time that they have taken to reach out on this issue. And some of the announcements yesterday were welcome off the back of the McCann review. However, I'm sorry to say to the House that it has not met with total joy from the victims of the loan charge, because there will still be many people caught up in the loan charge being asked to pay amounts of money that they simply still cannot afford to pay. The Chancellor and the Chief Secretary to the Treasury and other ministers are on record when they were in opposition as referring to victims of the loan charge as being directly victims of mis-selling, and that the perpetrators, those that promoted these schemes, should have been brought to justice. Yeah. And what we got yesterday was nothing of the sort. We didn't get that fully independent review that the APPG and the Loan Charge Action Group had been calling for. And what we've got is a place where many simply won't be able to pay it. Many people, despite the concessions yesterday, are now over 55, 40% are over 60, a quarter already retired. Their ability to find the amounts of money being asked for is just not there. And likewise, the offer on the table is nothing like the offer that we find that some years ago that the big banks were offered in the region of 10 to 15% settlement. So I would urge the Exchequer Secretary to go back, to look at this again and deliver a genuinely fair settlement to everyone caught up by the loan charge and pursue those that sold the schemes.